Perhaps you've felt this before. That strange feeling of being in the midst of chaos, news that changes every hour, plans that don't last, a world that never seems to stop reinventing itself, and yet, deep down, something within you keeps functioning, not in the noisy way everyone expects, not with speeches or declarations, but in a quiet, almost invisible way. Perhaps you are someone who has learned to move with the world instead of fighting against it. Someone whose body already knows what to do before the mind has even finished thinking. Someone who adapts not because they gave up, but because they developed something rare, the ability to keep going even when the ground changes shape. In this video, we are not going to label, diagnose, or compare. We're simply going to observe. Observe ways of being that many people call weakness, indecision, or lack of direction, and show what they really hide. Superpowers of adaptation that few know they have. If any part of this behavior seems familiar to you, share it in the comments. This is a quiet space to recognize yourself and better understand your own superpowers. The quiet way in which Gen Z's bodies absorb chaos without freezing. Have you ever noticed that some people, in the midst of a commotion, become paralyzed and others seem to switch to autopilot, as if their bodies know exactly what to do, even when their minds are still trying to understand the situation? This second type of person almost never shouts, almost never visibly panics. They just keep going. This happens in everyday life in a very simple way. When plans change at the last minute, when work becomes chaotic, when a conversation takes an unexpected turn, this type of person takes a deep breath, almost without realizing it, readjusts their posture, and is already thinking about the next step, not because they don't feel the chaos, but because their body has already learned to process turbulence without freezing up. Maybe that's you. Maybe you've never thought of it as a superpower because, to you, it always seemed automatic. But absorbing chaos without collapsing is one of the rarest abilities that exist. It's not coldness. It's an internal system that has learned to remain functional even when everything around it is falling apart. How the shoulders naturally relax when the environment changes pace. There's a detail that almost no one notices about themselves, the exact moment their shoulders slump. It's not a conscious decision. It's not something you think about doing. It's the body responding to the environment before any words are spoken. And some people do this with impressive frequency, as if their internal system were always monitoring the rhythm around them, ready to adjust. Imagine a common scene. You enter a bustling place full of voices and movement, and your body tenses slightly, shoulders rising, breathing becoming shorter. But then the atmosphere changes. The music lowers, the conversation slows down, someone smiles, and before you can think everything's all right now, your shoulders have already lowered on their own. Your body got there first. It read the rhythm of the place and responded. This is a very quiet superpower, the ability to sense the emotional rhythm of an environment and automatically adjust to it. It's not weakness, it's not a lack of firmness, it's fine bodily sensitivity, an internal radar that perceives changes in atmosphere before any conscious analysis. And people like this tend to be the most stable in moments of collective tension, precisely because their bodies already know how to navigate variations without getting lost in them. The silent way of scanning a new place before any words are spoken. Have you ever noticed that when you arrive in a new place, there's a moment, small, almost imperceptible, when your eyes scan the surroundings before anything else? It's not distrust. It's not shyness. It's something older than that. It's the body silently reading the space, the people, the energy of the place even before you decide what you're going to say or where you're going to sit. This happens in very everyday situations. At a party where you don't know everyone, in a new meeting room, at a restaurant you've never been to. While other people are already talking, you're still in a discrete internal process, reading outbursts, identifying open faces, sensing the general tone of the place. On the outside it seems quiet. On the inside it's intense processing. This habit hides one of the most underrated superpowers that exist: reading the environment. People like this are rarely caught off guard. They rarely enter situations without having at least some idea of what they are facing. Not because they are distrustful or closed off, but because their bodies have learned that understanding the space before acting is an intelligent and gentle way to protect themselves. If you've noticed this way of reacting in yourself or someone close to you, right? This sounds like me. This helps this video reach more people who think and feel similarly. The invisible habit of rearranging one's routine. Without telling anyone, there's a behavior that many people exhibit and almost never realize: reorganizing. Not in a dramatic way with announcements or explanations. In a silent way, waking up one day and simply changing the schedule of something, switching routes, adjusting a habit that wasn't working anymore, without ceremony, without asking permission. The body sensed the need to change, and it did. This shows up in small details of everyday life. The playlist you change when your mood changes, the way you rearrange your desk before starting a difficult task, the different route you choose to get home without a clear reason. These are constant micro-adjustments that the body makes, almost like automatic internal maintenance, keeping the system functioning without waiting for someone from the outside to signal that something needs to change. What appears to be instability or lack of consistency is actually a very precise superpower: the ability for continuous self-correction. Such people don't wait to accumulate enough to collapse. They adjust along the way, silently, before the burden becomes too great. It's adaptive intelligence working discreetly, and very few people can do this so naturally and so frequently. How the feet change direction before the mind consciously decides. There's a curious phenomenon that happens to some people in situations requiring quick choices. The body has already begun to move before any conscious decision is made. The feet have already turned. The body has already leaned in one direction, and only then, a few seconds later, does the mind arrive to confirm what the body already knew. An outside observer might call it impulsivity, but that's not quite it. Imagine a simple scene. You're in a hallway, two paths ahead, and without much thought your feet have already chosen one. Or you're in a conversation that's starting to get heavy, and your body has already recoiled slightly before you've even formulated a thought about it. Party or party. When someone enters the room and something within you has already moved closer or further away before any conscious analysis can take place. This is the superpower of bodily decision-making, an intelligence that bypasses the slow filter of doubt and excessive analysis. The body has accumulated so many experiences, so many interpretations of situations, that it has learned to respond directly and honestly before fear, education, or hesitation get in the way. People like this tend to make the right decisions in the most difficult situations precisely because they trust, even without knowing it, in a wisdom that resides beneath words. The tendency to sense the emotional climate of a group before joining it. Some people enter a room and, before hearing a single word, already know if the atmosphere is heavy or light. It's not magic. It's not paranoia. It's a silent reading that happens in fractions of a second, in the micro-expressions of faces, in the speed of conversations, in the way bodies are positioned in relation to each other. The body picks up all of this before any conscious interpretation. This appears in very recognizable situations. You arrive at work and, before anyone says anything, you already sense that something has happened. You enter a relative's house and the air seems different, more tense, more closed off, even if everyone is smiling. Or you arrive at a meeting and you can already tell, just by people's posture, who is siding with whom. This kind of reading happens too quickly to be thought about. It's felt. What many people mistake for excessive sensitivity or social anxiety is, in fact, a superpower of collective emotional perception. People like this are rarely manipulated by false environments for long. Their bodies have already signaled the truth before any discourse could try to convince them otherwise. It's a profound form of social intelligence, discrete, not taught in any school, but extremely powerful in any human relationship. The automatic way to create solutions with what you have on hand without complaining. There's a type of person who, when a plan falls apart, doesn't stop to lament what was missing. They look at what they have available and immediately start building something new with it. Not because they don't feel the frustration, not because they're indifferent to what they lost, but because something in their body has already learned that the time spent complaining about the problem is the same time they could be spending solving it. This appears in very simple everyday scenes. The ingredient that was missing from the recipe and turned into something equally good. The blocked path that led to a better route. The presentation that went wrong at the beginning and was improvised in a way that worked better than planned. These are moments when creativity doesn't appear as inspiration, it appears as a direct response to an obstacle. Silent, practical, and almost automatic. This is the superpower of adaptive creativity, not the glamorous kind that appears in exhibitions or on stages. The everyday, functional, and powerful kind that transforms limitations into solutions without making a fuss about it. People like this are the most valuable in times of collective crisis, precisely because while others are still processing what went wrong, they are already building the next step with what's left. Because the body has already learned to rest while moving without needing to stop. There is a type of rest that doesn't come from sleeping or from absolute silence or from planned vacations. It appears on a bus ride with headphones on a walk without a specific destination, in a moment of cooking alone without haste. These are pauses that don't seem like pauses because the body continues in motion, but something internal has slowed down. The mind has found a gentler rhythm without needing to stop completely. This is very common in people who live in environments of constant high demand. Truly stopping can even generate discomfort, that strange feeling that they should be doing something. So the body has learned to create microspaces for recovery within the movement itself. A longer breath between tasks, a glance out the window that lasts only 10 seconds but resets something internal. A moment of not responding to messages that isn't laziness, it's a legitimate need to recharge. This is the superpower of continuous recovery, the ability to restore oneself without leaving the game, without needing perfect conditions, without needing total silence, without needing the world to stop in order to breathe. The body has found its own rhythm of survival, and this is not weakness disguised as movement. It is resilience working in an intelligent, discreet, and profoundly human way. If this explanation has made something clearer about your way of being, comment, "Now I understand better." Your participation strengthens this community of self-knowledge, the silent ability to reinvent oneself without calling it courage. Some people go through profound transformations, and when someone notices and comments, they respond with a simple, "Oh, I just changed a few things." No drama, no heroic narrative, no public celebration. The reinvention happened so organically, so integrated into daily life that the person themselves hardly recognizes the magnitude of what they went through. To them, it just seemed natural. This manifests itself in changes that, from the outside, seem enormous, but from the inside, were built up little by little. The career that was changed without announcement, the relationship that was left quietly, the identity that was silently redesigned, a different habit here, a new boundary there, a small choice that changed the direction of everything. There wasn't a dramatic turning point. There was a discrete sequence of decisions that, together, formed a different person. This is perhaps the most underrated superpower of all, silent reinvention. The ability to transform without needing an audience, without needing external validation, without needing to name the process as something grand. The The body changed because it needed to change, and that in itself is an extraordinary form of courage. A courage that doesn't announce itself, doesn't ask for recognition, and doesn't expect applause. It simply happens and leaves a different and more whole person on the other side. A mind that finds a way out where others only see a wall. There's a silent difference between people who look at a problem and see the end of the road, and people who look at the same problem and are already searching for the crack through which the light enters. It's not forced optimism. It's not denial of what's difficult. It's a deep, almost automatic mental orientation that refuses to accept the blockage as the final answer. The problem is real, the wall is real, but something internal has already begun to search for what's around it. This appears in the most everyday moments and also in the most difficult ones. In the bill that doesn't add up and the mind is already reorganizing priorities before despair sets in. In the rejected project that becomes the seed of another path. In the conversation that ended badly and that days later revealed something important about what the person really needed. It's not that the pain didn't exist. It's that the mind didn't get stuck in it kept moving, searching, opening up. This is the most profound superpower of all, a mind that refuses to accept obstacles as its destiny. An emotional and creative intelligence that has been shaped precisely by moments when there was no obvious way out and yet a way out was found. People like this aren't invincible. They feel everything, but they carry within them a silent conviction that there is a next step even when it's not yet visible. And this conviction is often the only difference between freezing and continuing. And perhaps that's exactly what defines this generation in a way that no title or statistic can capture. It's not a generation without direction. It's a generation that learned to find its way in conditions that were never simple, that developed silent superpowers in a world that never stopped reinventing itself and that, therefore, needed to reinvent itself as well. The behaviors we've seen here: absorbing chaos without freezing, sensing environments before entering them, creating solutions with what's at hand, resting while moving, transforming without needing an audience are not disguised weaknesses. They are intelligent responses from a body and mind that have learned to survive with elegance in a world that never offered an instruction manual. Perhaps you recognized yourself in some of these ways of being. Perhaps you felt that quiet relief of realizing that certain quirks of yours aren't flaws, they're tools. That certain ways of reacting that you never knew how to name actually have a very simple name: superpowers. Have you ever noticed this type of behavior in yourself or someone you care about? Share your experience in the comments. Sometimes just reading similar stories makes us feel much less alone. If you enjoy content that reveals the hidden superpowers in your personality, subscribe to the channel. Here, we look at common daily habits with a deeper and more human perspective.